Everyone's complaining about Hugh Freeze playing too much golf, but he just hit a hole-in-one in recruiting. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for turning us up and turning us on a Tuesday morning. Joining me as he does every single week is my good friend, Kyle Rush from the Barn. Kyle, thank you so much for joining me today. We're talking recruiting, and we're talking a big commitment for Auburn that we just got in here. Jaquez Wilkes, four-star edge, has committed to the Tigers. This is a top 100 pickup for Hugh Freeze and his squad in the 2026 cycle. You follow recruiting better than anybody I know, man. Talk to me about Jaquez Wilkes. This could be the start of something good for the Tigers on the recruiting trail.
First off, as an avid golf guy, I gotta show my respect to the old intro. That was fantastic. I've been waiting for this one for a while, Mike. Jaquez Wilkes he's one of those kids, and there's so many reasons why he's important, but he's one of those kids that those really big athletic kids that you just want to get as many of as you can. And to top it all off, him being from the state of Alabama, and then to top that all off, being only 40 to 50 minutes from Auburn's campus, I think it's big. You've had you've had 8 commits, I think, since maybe June, something like that. It's almost like one a week you've had so far. But you haven't really had a lot of those blockbuster names. You've had some solid pieces and a lot of guys that could probably project to be good down the road. You just haven't really had those blockbuster guys quite yet. And Jaquez Wilkes is that by the truckload. You're talking a top 100 player, 6'4", 220, plays every single position you can imagine for his high school team. Just came off a state championship, so he knows how to win. One game shy of winning a state championship 2 years ago. This team's number one in his classification in the state of Alabama this upcoming year. So a dude that likes to win and a dude that's a freaky athlete. I think this could be a start a run of some of those more blockbuster guys, those high 4-star guys. I think Auburn could go on a little run here over the next, up until kickoff and be right where we need to be as far as the rankings go. If you really buy into all the rankings, I think this is the start of getting Auburn right back where they need to be in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, look, the number 10 edge in the country per 247, I believe, 91 overall. Again, a top 100 prospect here for Hugh Freeze. Just dominant is the only way to describe him at the high school level. A man amongst the boys. With all the success that DJ Durkin has had at Auburn so far, this commitment isn't a surprise, right? Like, they're developing on that side of the ball. We just went to media days. Keldrick Falk, Auburn's star, just got voted first team preseason all SEC. And I think if you're Jaquez Wilkes, you're looking at the work that Auburn is doing there at edge and saying, I want to be a part of that.
For sure. And I think one of his quotes were, I want to stay home. So there's some kids that love playing for that hometown school that's really close by. And there's some kids that can be kind of kryptonite with. They want to get away. But that obviously meant a lot to him. So it's just I tell you what, man, the roller coaster ride that we've had the last 2 months has been pretty dramatic. And to kind of, you feel like you're turning the page. You get a kid like this, you feel like you're turning the page and heading in a much more positive direction. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Recruiting doesn't change the roster you have going into this season. Like, it's not like if you miss a guy, it's going to make Cam Coleman go away or any of those dudes. But it does feel better to be, I guess, trending in the right direction on the recruiting trail. So you have that positivity there, and that positivity can even leak over into the more positive outlook that everybody feels coming down the road as far as this team this year. you feel like the negativity on recruiting sometimes bleeds into the season, and those two things don't even really mix. But all in all, this is huge for Auburn.
Yeah, it is huge for Auburn. Just Auburn's blue chip ratio is really starting to turn crazy right now. With all the great recruiting we've seen here. Before we move on, I do want to ask you, where does this commitment rank, you think, in terms of all the players they brought in so far for 2026? The numbers are down right now. We've talked to John Cohen about why those numbers are down. He thinks you're going to see a marked turn after the 1st of August as rules are starting to be enforced and other schools maybe start to come back to the field, or we even some of the more high profile commitments when they find out maybe the money that I was promised wasn't there. Is this the crown jewel of this recruiting class so far?
So far, for sure. I mean, there's a couple of guys out there, maybe one in particular that Auburn could land in August that could take that crown. But I mean, he is the highest rated player of the class right now. I mean, he's sort of the focal point, and I think he deserves every bit of it. He's a really good player. So you're talking about things turning and moving in the right direction. I mean, Auburn's got a really good chance to add another 3 or 4 guys before kickoff. And Mike, I crunched the numbers. You're going to be right there in the around the top 20 class if you land those guys that you're kind of trending for, that we're talking about over the next, again, up until kickoff. So, I mean, if I would have told you back in June we'd have a top 20 class at kickoff, how would you feel? I think you'd be pretty fired up based off where we were to where we're going.
Yeah, agreed. In the second half of the show, I want to talk about the idea of stacking, top 20 classes, top 10 classes, top 5 classes here. Wilkes did note that he had a strong bond with DJ Durkin.
Yeah.
And he felt a very strong bond there. And that was key in his recruitment as Auburn lands his commitment over the likes of A&M, Alabama, Miami was in the mix there for his services. I mean, there were a lot of heavy hitters on the recruiting trail, Kyle, that wanted Jaquez Wilkes.
Yeah, did you see where he called Florida State and Miami smaller schools? When he was going through the list of his that kind of hurt.
I
tell you what, he's there's a connection between him and DJ Durkin, and I feel the same way between me and DJ Durkin. He doesn't know it yet, but I trust him with my life. And he has proven to be a force on the recruiting trail, and then he gets it done on the field too. So if he can keep bringing in players like this, he can put the results on the field. It's going to be scary. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with Jaquez Wilkes, and I think he's going to be a perfect fit here. I can't wait to see what they do with him.
Yeah, me too. Look, recruiting has been a topic of discussion on the Plains in many different ways the last couple weeks. We're going to talk about how Auburn continues to stack talent in the new era of NIL. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of The War Report is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORTER. Get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue something that has you covered. Our guy Richard putting a little something special in there for all you guys who are visiting the store. Longtime sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Also, want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Golden's Cast Iron. You want to be outside by the grill with your family this summer, getting in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Kyle, let's jump back in here. I have said this, and it's something I've been wanting to talk to you about here for a while. But in my talks with Auburn AD John Cohen and people who are no recruiting, a lot of folks, and very, very important folks at media days from other schools. I talk to GMs at other schools. The era of stacking top 5 class after top 5 class may be going away.
Yeah.
And here's why. Right. John Cohen referenced repeatedly that we had to spend a ton of money on roster retention over roster acquisition. So when you recruit a top 5 class, the next year there's going to be a cost to keeping that class on campus. Then a lot, and that extra money is going to count towards your cap. And totally. So in years where you have a good base of recruiting returning, and not a ton of attrition, it may be hard to bring in that next top 5 class because of cap restrictions. This is what makes the NFL work, right? This is how the talent is spread in the NFL. You cannot win the Super Bowl and then go get the first pick in the draft the next year without giving away a ton.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right. You're a Super Bowl winner and you want the first pick in the NFL draft. You're going to have to give up current players, a bunch of money, resources. I mean, somewhere you invested where you got the first or first pick that you got 2 or 3 years ago.
Exactly.
And I think that's where college teams are finding themselves today in recruiting, Kyle. It's you. If you're Hugh Freeze in 2026 for the good class that you recruited in 2025.
Exactly. It almost becomes a hindrance these days. Like if you recruit well for one class, the next class is going to not be, more than likely not going to be able to be as deep or as big. And that's okay. That's okay. Like that's recruiting rankings are going to really become useless. I think you mentioned it earlier. I think blue chip ratio is going to become a whole lot more important. Auburn's got one of the highest blue chip ratio percentages I think they've ever had in the modern recruiting era on this roster right here. I think that's the way you got to look at it. You almost got to look at it season to season, not like you're recruiting for preparing for 3 or 4 years out. It's almost like year by year, your needs are going to change. So like there may be one year where Auburn in like 2 seasons, maybe the 2027 class, Auburn may have to go get a bigger class. You may have a lot leaving. You only have, I think it's somewhere around 18 players that you could lose off of this year's class. I mean, the numbers just don't work. You're going to have to bring in portal guys too. You're going to lose a few probably to the portal. You just can't load up with another class of like 25 guys. I think we're going to have to understand that either the recruiting rankings, the way they tabulate it, the way they formulate everything is going to have to change, or you're just going to have to look at like average player rating as a whole and go with that. Where you fall in the rankings really doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just all about how's that roster going to be right now, and then how's that roster going to be next year, and then how's that roster going to be next year, and it's got to be basically year to year.
Yeah. What this helps do is it helps create a little bit more parity at the college level.
Yes.
So that when you go through down periods or you have levels of high attrition where you have to reset your program, other teams have a chance to step in and steal a championship or two in those years, and you get a chance to spread. So, program building becomes a thing again where you see the money keeps kids home. And although, Kyle, the new portal rules have opened up the opportunity for athletes to transfer more often, I think NIL keeps kids home a lot more as well too, because if you're good, those schools will put the money on the table to say, hey, we want you to stay here, right? One of the things Greg Sankey said to me during media days was I asked him if it was frustrating that they finally got the guardrails that they asked for around NIL, and that some of the schools that asked for those guardrails are circumventing those rules and then preparing to mount legal challenges to the guardrails that they asked for. He said, Mike, it's highly frustrating. If you don't want the guardrails, he said, I quote, just say so and we'll let you spend into oblivion.
Well, you know what the guardrails are. The guardrails are I don't like it when I don't have a competitive advantage. That's what it is. That's what we want, guardrails for everybody else. And then we're going to keep doing what we've been doing for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. That's what they mean by that. They don't really want guardrails. They just want everybody else to have guardrails and not themselves. I honestly, I kind of liked the previous version of NIL. I like it where it's just like, hey, all bets are off. May the best man win. I know that that's unsustainable. And like, we're kind of maybe slowly getting to more regulations, a more feasible way to police this thing. But yeah, I'm sure it is frustrating when you have folks that are begging for one thing and then behaving in another way.
Yeah, look, I mean, we complained about it being kind of the wild, wild west out there in recruiting, and I mean, but if you dig it, if you have the money, right? Like if you've got the money to spend, you dig it because you're like, look, at the end of the day, we got more money than you, so yes, we don't mind guardrails because, or we don't mind not having any guardrails around because we've got the money to spend. And that has been the difference between the haves and the have-nots, Kyle, for a very, very long time. People thought that NIL would help even the playing field. And I pushed back against that notion soundly, saying, look, man, I think honestly it's going to create a bigger gap between the folks with money and the folks out without money. Because you may, at the end of the day, as much as we want to pretend that all these kids are making decisions based solely on money, they still want development. They still want to win. They still want to play for a program that gets them to the NFL. And that's more than just money, man. That's all the traditional tenets of recruiting come into play when the money is even everywhere that you would go as a top prospect.
Yeah, so, I want to go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I want to push back just a little bit on what you said previously against as the haves and the have-nots. Here's the thing. I think there's a lot more haves than you think. They just haven't had the structure. It's been black market for forever. You know, it's been black market forever. You had to have the network to be able to, you know, drop the duffel bag on the front steps.
That's fair.
And now you took the guardrails off, and then a team like Texas Tech can come spend $55 million on their athletic rosters that have a ton of money, but they just don't have the network to be able to do it. So I think it does create I think there's more haves than maybe we think. So NIL gives teams a chance to not have to have the secretive network behind the scenes to be able to make things happen. They got the money. They want to spend it out in the open. I think it made it to that. That's why I think it made it to where you'd see some teams pop every now and then and make the playoffs. But this kind of brings a little bit more structure, so it's going to bring a little bit more of the black market back into play, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that there are more haves. I think it's a great point. There are definitely more haves than we thought. But it also does not change the traditional haves that
no,
you know, I mean, like Texas is a big have that they've got them. Texas, they got more money than you. It's not close. I'll tell you, somebody who hasn't traditionally been a big have in a sense in the old system, but they definitely got like Texas Tech is loaded with money.
Yeah, we just talked.
Yeah, Texas Tech, just crazy money down there. They got a billionaire, I think, that they reportedly somewhere between 10 and 30 million that he helped land them one of the best portal classes we've ever seen. So,
yeah, exactly.
look, I definitely agree with you there. I think that there are more haves out there maybe than people thought. But in terms of, and yeah, maybe that money does help them compete a little bit more with competing with Texas and Texas A&M for recruits that they would maybe normally lose. But you still have to have development.
Sure.
I'm standing on this. You still have to have
I agree
the
with you there.
football piece figured out.
It only gets you so far. The money part only gets you so far. You still got to be able to show it. You still got to be able to show it.
Yeah, because I think that once you get there, if you go there for the money and then you figure out, well, like, we suck and this coaching staff is not a good fit for me, and I can still get top dollar in the portal if I transfer as a 5-star athlete only 1 year removed from high school. Everybody's going to still want me. Think about it this way. Cam Coleman committed to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And Jimbo Fisher got fired and he came to Auburn. If it didn't work out for Cam at Auburn and he hit the portal this past offseason, he was going to get top dollar, if not even more money than when he was coming out of high school. Right. So he's going to get the money and he's going to land someplace where he can win.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that the traditional tenets of football still matter, because if you're Cam Coleman, you're going to get money wherever you go. Right.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it definitely helps in the portal for sure. Like if I want to go try to win somewhere, I want to go drop. Winning is going to be a big part of it, especially if I'm leaving somewhere that's not having that much success. I think it does help a lot more in the portal for sure.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think we have to start to look at recruiting. We have to start to shift our thinking about recruiting away from just simply how many good high school guys did you land.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a ton of kids that are like Quinn Ewers, committed to Ohio State, didn't play a single snap there. And then went on to be, I think he was like the number 2 overall player coming out of high school that year. Then
he goes a lot of talk.
Yeah, then he goes to Texas, lands the starting job, and he's an instant star. Now that's off to the NFL. So yeah, if you are truly a 5-star guy, if you are him, if you're a top 50 player coming out of high school, you're going to get money. And I would say that even if you don't play a ton your freshman year, as long as you don't mess up or you don't actually physically go out there and bomb out or get in trouble, 1 year removed from high school, you still will garner good money, if not more money, based on what if they actually did something that first year. Like I said, Cam Coleman, his numbers weren't exactly eye-popping his freshman year, but people know what kind of talent he has, and he did a field that I'm telling you, as a 600-yard receiver with a few touchdowns, Kyle, if he had hit the portal, people would have been dropping millions to get Cam Coleman on their roster.
And you're 1,000% right. But when we talk about Auburn and NIL and the transparency portion of it, this is, we've complained a little bit about it, maybe being a weakness at times. Hugh Freeze actually even said that at SEC Media Day. So maybe we're transparent to a fault. I think that same transparency is why you don't see as much attrition, because, hey, they may be saying I may make $1 million, $2 million. Can I trust that? I know what I got here, and I know what we're building. That's why I think Auburn's able to retain these guys the way they've been able to, and you haven't really lost a ton of the foundational depth that you've been building to get to this, this year three and year 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, fascinating stuff. Kyle Rush from the barn joining me as always. Love it when we talk recruiting, my friend. You know the deal, man. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Go to thebarnauburn.com. Sign up today. We're giving recruiting season is definitely heating up. So Auburn's probably going to have, like I mentioned earlier, you got 4 guys you're probably looking at maybe landing up until kickoff. We've got the drop on all of it on the message board. So jump in, have some fun, and then anywhere you get a podcast, you can find me.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. Do us a favor, if you're in the comments after the video, smash that super thanks button. We were on site all week at SEC Media Days. Last week, Kyle, it was a blast being able to talk to Josh Pates and Cole Kublix. I did a stint on the Feinbaum show last week. I had a lot of fun talking to Paul on set there, too. That's made possible in part by your financial support, which we really appreciate. Hit like and subscribe. We are The War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off. And as always, War Eagle.